Hello. Well, today we're going to start the first of a short series of videos looking at the whole concept of earnings per share. Now, you may or may not be familiar with this topic. Earnings per share represents the amount of money that one common share of a corporation earned. Now, this number that we are going to calculate is a big deal because it ties into share valuation when we look at purchase or sale of shares on the stock market. So I'm just going to give you a really quick example here, just really short. Let's just say that a share earned $2. Okay, so we have one common share, and here's another company, and that common share had an EPS also of $2. Now we go to the stock market and we look at what it costs to buy that share. And this company is at $24, and this company is at $42. So, wow, what you're buying is $2 of earnings. And for this company, you're going to pay $24 to get, at least this year, $2 of earnings. For this year, this company, you're going to pay $42 to own essentially $2 of earnings. Now, the $2 does not mean that they gave it to you in the form of a dividend. It's just basically pretty much net income with an adjustment. So if you're thinking of buying shares on the stock market, this is certainly one of the factors, right? And if you think of this, let's cut that in half and make it $1. Well, you're paying $12 with this company to earn $1. With this company, you're paying $21 to earn $1. And we would think that the prospects for this company are much better than the prospects for this company, or why would you pay almost twice as much for $1 of earnings, right? So this is how earnings per share ties into the stock market. So let's look at the formula to calculate EPS. And by the way, everybody everywhere calls this EPS. They don't actually say earnings per share. So the formula for EPS is income available to common shareholders divided by weighted average number of common shares outstanding. Now, first of all, let's briefly look at income available to common shareholders. We say, well, a company earns net income of so much. If there are no preferred shares, the common shareholders earn the whole income. In other words, they own it all. However, if there are preferred shares and there's a preferred dividend, then the common shareholders own all of the earnings minus the preferred dividend. Now there's maybe one or two little fine points here, but we're not going to get into those super fine points in this example. We're just going to look at the basic idea. Company earns $3 million, okay? And here's your $3 million. Now let's just say that we have 200,000 preferred shares, and that these shares each receive a dividend. I'm just going to make this money. They receive a dividend of $1.50. Okay, so we can easily multiply this out, and we can say that the preferred dividend is $300,000. So common shareholders own all of this except for the $300,000. We take that away, and in this little example, that $2.7 million is income available to common shareholders. So this is the numerator, and this is our calculation for basic EPS. Now, in a following video, we're going to expand on this and look at the concept of diluted EPS, but for now, this is our EPS. We have to divide by the weighted average number of common shares outstanding. And I'll show you why. We don't just go to the end of the year. I mean, let's just say, I'll get this yet. Hang on. Let's just say on January 1, you had 5,000 shares outstanding. Okay, I just want to pull that down to 5,000. Okay, so you had 5,000 shares outstanding. Now, this is not the example we're going to use, but just to illustrate the concept here, why we need a weighted number. Let's say that way over in December, you issued another, let's say it's December 1, and you issued 50,000 shares. So if you issued 50, now you have 550, right? However, we don't want to use 550 in the denominator as the end of year number of shares because it's not representative of earnings throughout the whole year. What's representative in this really short example is that we had 500,000 shares outstanding for 11 months of the year. So we would go 11 months out of 12, and we had 550 outstanding for only 1 month out of 12. So you're familiar with the weighted average concept because in Introduction to Financial Accounting, of course, weighted average is one of the inventory cost flow patterns. So you know that, in fact, if you have a lot more of, let's say, an item at 12 and way less of an item at a different number, it weights more heavily. So this really short example, again, would look like this. We would take our 500,000 times 11 months divided by 12 months, and the weight would be 458,333. Then we would take the same thing, and I'm just going to copy this because we're going to take this times 1 divided by 12, and this last month is weighted like that. Okay, so all together, I'm going to add these up, and you'll see that the final answer is just a little bit more than 500,000, right? And that's because this was only outstanding, this extra 50 was only outstanding for 1 month. So this would actually be our denominator weighted average number of common shares outstanding. So using this weighted average and this income available to common shareholders, that's money, remember, right here, income, and this is number of shares, so that would give us an EPS of the money divided by the weighted average common shares outstanding, and I'm just going to turn this into a couple more decimals. Whoops, not too many. Now, this is money, so let me format that as money. So the answer in this really sort of starter example, basic EPS is $5.36, and you need to write 536. So this is no good. You can't write 5.4, and similarly, this number has a lot of decimals, but this isn't the answer either. It's money. So you'll notice that 0.355 rounds off to 0.36, and that becomes our answer in money. So this is the number that would go at the bottom of the income statement of a company using IFRS, because under IFRS, corporations are required to disclose both basic and diluted earnings per share after their income statement's done. So that's our first little look at earnings per share, the formula to calculate earnings per share, and a really short example of earnings per share. So we're pretty much going to stop this video here, and in the next video, which will also be quite short, I'm going to show you some of the finer points of calculating the weighted average number of common shares outstanding, because it's certainly more difficult than this. So we're going to do just an example that only looks at calculating weighted average number of common shares outstanding, and that'll be our next video.